I think that the existence of God isn't really that much of an important question. I don't believe that it's an important ontological question that we should be asking, because I think that it's completely irrelevant whether in reality God actually exists or not. Be it the Christian concept of God, or just God as a form of higher consciousness, or a higher being, or something like that. If we were to assume that such a metaphysical being actually exists, that we refer to as God, or the idea of God actually exists, then what actually changes? Even if we were given absolute epistemological proof that God exists, what does that change? What actually changes in our lives? We're still here living our lives. We're still in the same situation that we're in now. you know um, you know things that happen to us won't change, and we'll still live in a world where suffering, pain, as well as happiness and good things still exist. So even if we were given proof that God exists, we will still have questions, questions of purpose, questions of meaning, questions of value, and things like that. And so, for the sake of this argument, if we're assuming that God definitely exists, then how is it that we are supposed to live our lives? The existence or non-existence of God doesn't provide us with that, objective purpose or meaning. It doesn't tell us what to do. It doesn't give us a direction to head in. I could have my own religious or spiritual experience where I am totally convinced that God exists, but that belief won't necessarily give me any kind of foundation or framework to work with. I'd still be left with questions such as, what is the purpose of my life? It's like, I know that God exists, but what am I supposed to do now that I know that God exists? What is the purpose of my life? Is it to live a certain way? Is it to worship Him? Is it to follow a certain lifestyle, follow a certain moral code? And there's hundreds to choose from. And what is the correct path which I'm supposed to take? And what am I supposed to do now? Now that I know that God exists. And so, for me, the question of whether God actually exists or not, I believe is irrelevant. There's a lot of theists and atheists alike, especially here on YouTube, that are arguing for or against the actual existence of God. Throwing arguments and ad hom attacks left, right, and centre. As well as the odd good rational argument here and there, and for and against the existence of God. But to me, all of these arguments, just completely defeat the point. I think that we should be focusing our energies more on how we actually live our lives. Whether God exists or not. We should be focusing on how we should be living our lives, and how we should be living our lives with our own individual perspectives, whether it be a scientific one or a religious one. And so I don't believe that it actually matters at all whether God actually exists or not, because we all have to find our own meaning. We all have our own lives, and we all have to find ways of living our own lives which are meaningful to us. And I think that that's still going to be the case whether God exists or not. And so I think that it's best if we don't really worry about these sorts of things, and don't perhaps not waste our time on metaphysics and wondering whether God actually exists or not.